Hello and welcome to Behind the Floppy Flag. In this video we're taking a look at Amaran Ray 360C, a full spectrum color light with balance mount designed by Amaran. This light is a successor to the 300C and has a lot of improvements over the previous light, and in general the product has become much more refined and robust, which we will show in this video. The light comes in this hard foam case, which is okay for storage, but frankly for work it's not ideal because all it has is this one little handle here. There is no shoulder strap, so it's very inconvenient to carry this around because you always have to waste your arm to carry this and you cannot really have anything else on you. And it's also quite big. In my opinion, this could have been much smaller. Another thing I don't really like about the case is the locking knobs here, which I'm sure will break over time and will definitely serve a lot less than the light fixture itself. But anyway, having a case is a lot better than having nothing at all, because this keeps your gear safe, it's not moving anywhere during transportation, and will definitely survive heavy use being thrown around in vans and production cars and stuff like that. Let's take a look inside of the case. As you can see, only 3 items here. The power cable, which is of a very good quality, it's very soft, very nice to work with, and it's pretty long. Also, it has a Nutrix connection with this locking mechanism, which makes it more safe and useful for production use. Another item, Amaran Hyper Reflector. I believe this is a new system because the previous hyper reflectors for fixtures like 200 or 300 series were smaller, and this one is quite big, so probably affects the output of the lighting, but we will talk about this a bit later in the video. And the final item is the light fixture itself. Let's take a look at the bottom of the fixture. We see this familiar yoke, which is the same that was used on the 300C and some other Amaran lights. It's plastic handle, but all metal construction, so it's metal where it counts. The bracket is metal, the baby pin adapter is also metal, and on the side there is this umbrella holder, which is a nice touch, not the most useful of things, but it's nice to have sometimes when you need the simplest possible diffusion for this kind of light. Mind you, this thing is plastic, unlike the bracket itself, so if you attach the heaviest umbrella possible, this might get damaged, so should be careful with this. Another thing that we can see at the bottom here is the Nutrix connector for power and a switch. The switch is all covered in this rubber, and the light has IP54 rating. Amaran is trying to become a little less indoor-only light and be more of a production tool that you can use inside and outside and in all kinds of environments. It's not, of course, a professional aperture series that can be used in any way possible, but they are definitely making some steps to making this as versatile a tool as possible. At the front, we have a COB protection cover. This time it's in blue color. This is a new thing, I guess. And underneath is this pretty big COB emitter itself. In older fixtures like the 200X or 100X, we used to see the diodes directly underneath the cover. Right now we can see that there is some diffusion glass that first of all protects the diodes themselves, but also work as a bit of a diffusion, giving us a more even light source. This is much better when you're using this on some optical attachments like the projection mount, because it gives you a very even light source, which is a great advantage first of all, and second of all, this also brings this light closer to professional aperture fixtures that always have this kind of protection and diffusion at the front of their COBs. A few words on why this new design of diffusion over the COB surface is so good. Here's the projection mount, and if I attach this light to this mount, the quality of light projected will be much better than on these older COB lights that had this stripped pattern of LEDs inside, and this would affect the quality of projection at all times. So if you focus the projection mount to a certain angle, you will always notice these stripes that represent the LEDs of the light fixture. And here is an Amaran 360C projection. As you can see, this banding does not appear because the color emitting area is much more even thanks to this diffused COB pattern. Another thing we can see at the front is this safety feature, so we can attach a chain to this thing and either secure some attachment that you have on top of the light or secure the light itself, because this front element is all metal. So this is a very nice way of securing the light if you are booming it over people. This makes everything a bit safer, so this is a very welcome innovation in my books. Previously, to secure these Amaran lights, you'd always have to find some way to rig this handle, but it's so much better when there is a dedicated solution built into the stronger part of the light fixture. This is the first time that Amaran fixture comes without any power brick, so all the power distribution is built into the light unit itself, and all you have is this power cable running towards your mains. A great improvement over the previous generation of lights like the 300C or the 200X series. The bounce locking button moved to this side, which is also very nice, easier access. And here is the light with its supplied reflector. As you can see, the sight has become quite substantial. I'd say this is almost as big as the Aperture 400X fixture, and it's one of the bigger Amaran series lights. Here's a size comparison to Amaran 200X, which is an older unit and is probably not a direct comparison because this one is a full color light and this is just bicolor light. But still, size difference is huge. The new light is much bigger and heavier, the reflector is bigger, and in general, its size is much closer to something like Aperture 400X than these older, smaller Amaran lights. Let's power on the fixture and take a look at the menu system. As you can see at the back, the light has NFC for quick connection to your smartphones, and another welcome addition to Amaran lights, a DMX connectivity. So there is a Type-C dongle that allows you to connect this light to DMX if you're planning to use this light in a professional environment. So it's super easy to connect this fixture to Sidus Link app. You just hit this NFC button in the app and then hold the phone to the fixture. Configuration successful. So now we have the fixture ready to go inside this Link app with all of its fantastic functions and ease of use. The menu is prettier than ever. Frankly, I mostly use menus to reach Bluetooth, reset it, and control the light through my phone. But if you happen to use this menu, you will appreciate how pretty it's become, how nice this display looks, and how many things you can actually adjust here. For example, one of the things I really wasn't expecting from a light is buttons customizability. You can adjust what the back button does. Resetting Bluetooth on most of modern Aperture and Amaran lights is done by long pressing the back button. If I go out of the menu and I long press this button, it enters a Bluetooth reset mode. If I double press, the menu flips. This is useful if you're rigging the light overhead and need to still have the screen visible with the light upside down. You can reassign this double press to anything you need. And the same thing about back button hold. So there are various things that you can choose from in this little menu here. This is a new thing and quite welcome as well. Customization is everything. This knob is as good as all of the other YouTube reviews will tell you. This is one of those things that you really have to try in person, even though I don't use physical controls that much, but this is very nice to use. The light natively supports a CCT range from 2300 all the way to 10,000 Kelvin, but if you go to CCT Plus mode and enable it, it will use some of those color emitters to extend the range to 1800 on the warm side and 20,000 at the cooler side. This is almost like blue light. One quirk I found is that somehow I cannot have my Sidus Link app register the CCT Plus mode, so it's only available at the back of the light and not in the app, which is weird, but I'm sure will be fixed in some future firmware updates. A few words about light output. I was curious to compare this unit to another Amaran fixture that I own, which is a 200XS. Here's information from Amaran's site. As you can see, the two lights are comparable when it comes to light output at the same distance, which made me a bit puzzled because 360C draws almost 2 times the power, so I assumed it would be at least a little bit more powerful. But it's not really a fair comparison since 360C is a full color light and 200X is only bicolor. I don't have any scientific way to test this at home. All I have is my Panasonic camera with luminance spot meter enabled. This shows brightness level in stops. So I've rated the brightest spot on my wall to 0 stops. Now 360C is blasting at this wall at full power, and I'm measuring the very center of the beam, so if there is a hot spot, I'm measuring that, so the maximum possible output of this light. Now let's compare that to 200x. And here's 200x with its supplied reflector. And true enough, we do see that it's at 0 stops as well, so the light level has stayed the same. However, I don't know if you can see it very well in camera, but with my eyes I can very clearly see that 200xs has a much brighter hotspot. The 360C beam seemed a lot more even. In general, if you're planning to use the 360C just as your bicolor light for interviews and stuff like this, where you do not really need a bright, colorful light, I'd say you can easily go for 200xs. It'll be much smaller, much lighter, much cheaper, albeit with a power brick and older design and construction, but still powerful. Another thing I was very curious to see is how the new Omnicolor light engine of the new Amaran series compares to BLAIR engine of professional aperture storm fixtures. The only storm fixture I own is the ATC that I have here on the left, and Amaran 360C is to the right. I tried to match the brightness of each spot to just see the color differences between the two lights. And next to the fixtures is a screen recording from Sidus Link app. Let's take a look. One thing you immediately notice when you go from the Storm ATC to Amaran 360C is that there's only HSI and picker modes. All the other advanced color control modes are absent here. So this light is a little more limited in how you can adjust color. Let's pick the same color for both fixtures and see how they compare on camera. Starting with red, hue 10, saturation 90. The same thing for Storm, hue 10, saturation 90. Interestingly, to my eye, the 360C color looks a little more pinkish. However, on camera, they look identical. Hue 130, saturation 90. Here we can see some differences. I can't say if one is worse than the other, they're just different, and this is something to note if you're planning on mixing these different fixtures in the same workflows. They will never display the same kind of light. Next one is this lime color. Hue 90, saturation 90. In this case I can't really see a lot of difference to the eye, and on camera they also look identical. Next up, blue. Hue 210, saturation 90. Even if there is any difference, it's pretty negligible. I can't really tell which is which. Lastly, let's take a look at yellow. This is usually the most complicated color for RGB lights. And indeed, we see a much deeper and stronger color rendition from the ATC. It looks much better to the eye and much better on camera. There's definitely a difference between BLAIR color engine and Omnicolor engine. It's not huge, but it's there. So for professional use, I'd say it's better to stick to the professional line of aperture storm lights. Here's another comparison that I've done manually. Hue 20, saturation 100, sort of deep orange color, and especially to my eyes, they look very, very different. The aperture color is much more rich and saturated, and Amaran's color is a little more pinkish. Again, somehow it's not very visible on camera. I guess this is a limitation of the camera I'm recording with, but to my eyes, the colors are significantly different. Another thing to note while we are here is that since we have such a limited amount of settings in the Sidus app, we cannot choose, for example, the color temperature. Like on the Storm ATC, we can choose the CCT value. This is basically the value to which the color desaturates if we pull this slider towards the center. So it can be either warm light or cool light, and this affects all the colors, especially if you're working with lights that are not 100% saturated, because the less saturated the light is, the more of this white light gets mixed in, and these settings are simply not available in Amaran fixture. Now for some final thoughts. Overall, we've had a very positive experience with the light. It has some key improvements over the previous generation of Amaran lights: the absence of power brick, better IP rating, more output than previous 300C, DMX connectivity if you ever need to use it in professional environment, NFC connectivity for quicker setup, customizable buttons, the first time I ever see something like this in a light fixture, and just an amazing UI experience. That's it for this video, thanks for watching, see you in the next one, bye.